Hey! Hello. Welcome to the honeymoon room. I got married on Sunday in Las Vegas, and I just thought, where do I want to go for my honeymoon? Cleveland, right? Obviously. So I'm subjecting you to celebrating with me right now, okay? Thank you. But instead of talking about my own wedding, I do actually want to tell you about another one, if that's okay, where I was chosen last. I was chosen as the last bridesmaid. You see here, dead last in this long line of bridesmaids. I got a call from my friend. She said, Amy, I would love it if you would be in my big day. I want you to stand up for me. I want you to be one of my bridesmaids. This other girl, she got pregnant. She's not going to fit into the dress on time, so we thought you'd be a great stand-in. And I was like, okay, cool, great. That sounds like so much fun. And so I thought I could be the last bridesmaid, but I kind of want to be the favorite bridesmaid. How do you become the favorite? How do you make somebody feel even more special on the most important day of their life? And believe me, I just experienced it. It was really important. That's a lot of pressure. But I was up to the challenge, and I somehow came up with the idea for a video. I'd never made a video before. I'd never edited. I didn't even know if I had a video camera, but I found out my little Canon PowerShot had that option in 2007, before the smartphones were all fancy and all that. And I just started recording people we went to school with, family, friends, offering her well wishes. And I went back home to my computer that took up my entire kitchen and found some software called Windows Movie Maker. And I stitched together all those clips and, of course, included the backing track of Good Riddance by Green Day, Time of Your Life, to really drive the emotion of the moment. And I had a video on my hands, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna play this at the rehearsal dinner. I went to the rehearsal dinner, and I was like, I need some airtime. And they were like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, well, I'm gonna need a TV and a DVD player, because I had to burn that video on a DVD. There was not even YouTube in my mind at this point in time. I didn't know it existed. And they wheeled a TV into that rehearsal dinner, and I popped that DVD in and pressed play. And that moment changed the rest of my life. Everyone in that room, the bride, of course, right? She's bawling. Oh my God, I haven't seen these people in like forever. We graduated high school like 3 years prior, so really it wasn't that long ago. And everyone else, though, I looked around the room, and people who didn't know who these individuals on the screen were, maybe they didn't even know the song, they're just watching this, and they understood the context, the emotion, the power of what this message was for the bride. And they were so emotional. And I just thought, how interesting that I was able to create something for one person and affect the many. I was like, I kind of want to do more of that. That sounds really cool. So that is how I've gotten my start with video. That's the first video I ever made, and the one that made me realize how powerful this medium is. And so I imagine that you're here as well for similar reasons. You understand why video is absolutely imperative to the current landscape of social and content marketing. And so let's get into that today. And I want to talk to you about how to create and repurpose video. And here are a couple of things we're going to touch on. The pillars of this conversation are going to be between consistency, capability, and context. The 3 C's that I find to be the most important for getting activated into video. Are you in? It's my honeymoon, people. Are you in? Okay, good. Consistency. Obviously, we know that being consistent with content is extremely important. You've probably heard that word 50 billion times since you've been here this weekend or this week. I don't know what day it is. Plan your programming. What does your customer want to know? Not what do you think they want to know. Sure, they want to know how to buy your product. Sure, that's what keeps them up at night, right? No. What do they want to know? That's how we're planning our programming. So what do they think about? What are they Googling? How can you help right now? Maybe they can't make a purchase decision right this second, but if you are on their radar immediately, they will make that purchase decision later. If you don't think about what they're thinking about right now, they won't think of you, ever. So that is where the programming needs to start and potentially continue then on. So that is what we're going to make video about. Vlog that. Keep a list of those frequently asked questions. You may think they're stupid. You may think, oh, they could find that on the internet. The internet is a beautiful thing. Why don't you show up for the thing that they could find on the internet? That is what we want. If you think it's a stupid question, answer it. Somebody is Googling it, especially in the world of YouTube. If you're trying to gain some traction on that landscape, it's so vital to consider search. So vital. So research what they're searching for. What are they thinking about? Here's an example of what, does anyone know what this drop-down menu is here? What is it called? Predictive? It's basically predictive search, right? YouTube is trying to say, I know what you're looking for based on what you're typing. Let me help you. So let's go through some of these here. How to bake. Let's say you want to talk about baking in your programming. How to bake your face? Shout out to the girls that know what that means. That's not a recipe. How to bake a cake. How to bake chicken in the oven. How to bake potatoes in the oven. How to bake cookies, salmon, sweet potato in the oven. Bake bread, fish in oven. Why is that list important? These are the most searched for queries with those first 3 words on YouTube, at least in your country, if not worldwide. I don't know what to make a video about. How about we start with that? Right? I didn't need to be an SEO expert to figure out how to use that. So what do we do from this information? Maybe this gives us a couple of ideas. We run with one of them. Now we need a tool to kind of make sure we know where we're going to land this in the best place possible for search. This is the Google Chrome extension that I recommend, TubeBuddy. This is specifically great for YouTube, but it's important to know sort of what keywords you're working with when you're trying to rank for it, period. But when you pop in how to bake a cake in the Tag Explorer, it lets you know, based on who's on the front page of search, here is the metadata you should be working with if you would like to compete with that. Did anyone want that information faster? I think this is pretty fabulous, if you ask me. So it's also nice because it'll tell you sort of a keyword score based on how much search volume and competition. Is this something you should attempt to do, or will you have a little bit harder time getting on that front page, getting suggested videos to happen? This is a really nice tool for that. So use the things that are readily accessible to you as just an average user, and then leverage a tool like this to say, okay, well, what should my tags be? What is the main keyword I need in my description? And let's go to the races with this video. We need some momentum, but if the metadata is in there, now you've got the combination you need to have that video take off in a positive way. So we've got to plan the programming. We have to back it up with the SEO, but what do you do with just the ideas? You can do so much with ideas that often you paralyze yourself with them and do nothing. Am I right? I mean, that's what a lot of people do with ideas. You need to take those ideas and lay them out to set your motion for success in programming. Just because you came up with an idea doesn't mean it should be the next one. How do we make something exciting for people to subscribe to because they can kind of anticipate it, but they also don't know what's really coming? So that is why I talk about in my book about the bucketing system for building out your programming. So what are your buckets? If you're a family lifestyle blogger, let's say you post 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. How can we set ourselves up for success with those ideas to give them a place on the calendar? It's not always the same thing all the time. You're covering an array of topics. You're making sure you don't pigeonhole yourself into one particular thing. Give yourselves the themes. And then in the kitchen, and fun things to do and organizing advice gives you context of, okay, I know where my idea goes. I'm going to schedule that for next Monday because it's about how to bake a cake. These are basics. I get that, and you're looking at some colored buckets on the screen, and I know that's so silly, but it's So basic, and yet we just take whatever comes to mind and do it. That is not consistency. You have to plan ahead. So give yourselves those parameters instead of a blank slate every single time. Capability. I know you're probably thinking, okay, we know how to do an editorial calendar. Like, that's fine. We can figure this out. We've done so much keyword research. We can lay this out for success. That's great. But I don't have the same personality that Amy has. She's pretty spectacular. I know. I am. But you can make video. You don't have to have the right personality to make video. You have to have talent. Everything we do comes down to talent. If you do it enough times, you become talented. You just have to know how to do it. And you have to do it a lot of times. So when you're standing in front of a camera, it can feel like this. This is very intimidating, both for the person that's standing in front of it and for the person that's going to watch this end product. Is it that relatable? Probably not. But that's what we're going for with video. We're trying to get someone to watch this and feel like they are in that moment with you. I'm sitting down with you right now, and I'm having a cup of tea so naturally, and I'm going to have a conversation with you. That is good video. That's what it feels like. You should feel like this, but so should the end viewer. How do you make them feel like they're in that moment with you? That is influence and impact. So there's a really big adjustment you have to make here. We have to look at the camera a little bit differently. This can be very intimidating, that lens, that thing is like staring you back in your face, and it looks a lot like you, and it's like, oh, I don't like that person. You have to look at this very differently. This is not you. This is who you're talking to. I'd like you to meet my avatar, Charlotte. I talk to her every single time I look at the lens of a camera. That is talent. Has anyone in here ever spoken to a person before? Yeah? Okay, good. So we're doing okay then. It just comes down to recognizing that this thing is the vehicle for your message. That's it. So if you don't look at it that way, if you don't look at it like it is Charlotte or Joe or whoever it is, you're not going to get better. You can think about yourself, you can think about your insecurities, you can think of, oh, this is not going to go well, this was a terrible idea that the department came up with. Look at Charlotte. That is it. If people made that one adjustment, they would be astronomically better than their competition every single time. Stop being so consumed with you and your product and your issues and think about them. That's the difference. So I'm going to go over something just to give you the blueprint. You can talk to a human, that's great, but once you hit record, do you really know what you're doing from start to finish? Let's make that a little bit better shot of happening. So this is essentially what should be happening throughout your video. I'm going to put some parameters around this because video is very different today. You could have 10 seconds on Instagram. You can have 50 minutes on Facebook Live. This is what I would call an average YouTube video. That could also be repurposed in other places, but we'll talk about how it's a little bit different for other platforms. The first thing that is important with every video is subject first. What does that mean? What is the subject of your video? Do not waste any time getting them on camera. It's probably a human, it's probably a brand rep, it's probably an item that you're showing off. Get that thing on camera immediately. Do not waste any time. It's that simple. Especially if it's a person. The person that's going to take us through this process right now, that's the most relatable thing ever. Ideally, the person watching the video also has a face. So seeing a face is very relatable. Get it started quickly. Loyalty treatment. This is my fancy way of saying, do not go right into your elevator pitch. I know once you hit record, you don't know what else to do except for introduce yourself and what your website is, where you work, your fancy title, all those things. But no one cares yet. If the video is called How to Bake a Cake, they're probably not interested in what department you work in. So don't get straight into that right away. We have time for that here. There's plenty of time on this timeline for influence. So start with your face and say hello. You know, don't be rude. You're showing up for coffee with somebody, so say hello. But get into it like they have been watching you for years. Like you're just showing up for another coffee together. It would be kind of weird if you showed up to a coffee with an old friend and said, oh, hey, my name is Amy and I have a website. It's called Savvy Sexy Social and it's really great. I have blogs, I have podcasts, and you should subscribe. Also, don't forget to follow on Twitter. Okay, great, awesome. What kind of coffee do you like? We wouldn't do that. So same thing, treat them like they have always been loyal. That is how somebody gets on the party train and stays on board. You don't want to go into that elevator pitch and waste time because you have 8 seconds. The 8-second rule is the average amount of time on YouTube. It's much less generous in other places. On YouTube, somebody clicks play on the video and they make a decision. Am I going to stay or am I going to leave? So if you've spent all that time going into your pitch, they're probably bailing on you. We've lost audience retention. We've lost minutes watched. YouTube doesn't like any of that. They don't send you more traffic. 8 seconds is how long you have.